Before diving into this video, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Moment. Thank you for sending these MagSafe cases for the Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro, adding MagSafe functionality to non-iPhone devices so you can easily mount them and also clip them on to MagSafe chargers. Hey guys, welcome to Tech Edit. I'm Basil and today I'm comparing two hot phones, the Xperia 5 Mark IV and the Google Pixel 7. But the question is, which one is right for you? The Xperia 5 Mark IV is much more expensive than the £599 and $1 Google Pixel 7. And so it's no surprise Sony's compact flagship does deliver more on paper. You've got a larger battery life, a sharper display, and more power under the hood. But the first thing you'll notice is that design. The Xperia 5 has a frosted back, whereas the Google Pixel 7 has a glossy one, and we prefer frosted. It's less fingerprint grabby and also feels that bit sleeker. Both of the phones are IP68 water and dust resistant. They have Gorilla Glass Victus on the front and back, aluminium frames, and neither ships with a case in the box or a screen protector, so they're super evenly matched when it comes to durability. I do prefer the flat sides of the Xperia 5 Mark IV versus the rounded sides on the Google Pixel. Now the Pixel 7 does feel more playful, but if you like a refined looking feeling phone, then it's the Xperia all the way. I'm also not a huge fan of the new Google Pixel camera bump, which screams, while the Xperia 5 Mark IV's camera bump quietly whispers, jutting out ever so slightly. Despite being thinner, the Xperia still crams in a 3.5mm headphone jack, and both phones have all the buttons on the right hand side. That's power and volume buttons. Now with the Xperia you also get a physical camera button, and the power button doubles up as a fingerprint scanner. Switch to the Pixel 7 and that fingerprint scanner is in the screen. Both of them worked really well in our time testing them, so no real issues there. Both phones pack stereo speakers above and below the display, though the Pixel's is at the bottom next to the USB-C port. The Pixel's speaker is way tinnier than the Sony's at max volume. At middling volumes, they're both easy to listen to for most stuff, a YouTube clip for example. But if you plan on listening for long durations, trebles are pitchier on the Pixel, and the Xperia 5 Mark IV packs more depth. Onto the screens, and while the Xperia and Pixel get flat OLED displays, the Xperia's is sharper on paper. Now they're wide Full HD resolution, but being 6.1 inches, the Xperia 5 Mark IV crams that into a smaller space versus the 6.3 inch Pixel 7. That does make the Xperia 5 more manageable, but it also means with its 21:9 aspect ratio, content like an episode of, I don't know, Desperate Housewives won't look quite so good on it because there are bigger black borders. Now quality across both screens is great. Nice deep and inky blacks, punchy colors, and decent brightness, good enough for outdoor viewing, at least where we were. However, the Xperia's edges ahead when playing back content. It's funny, the 16:9 aspect ratio of most of the stuff we were watching wasn't optimized for it, but the fact it was able to pull out more punch, more pop from those colors meant it made content look a bit richer. A lot of people will prefer the Pixel 7 because it's got a wider aspect ratio or a more squat aspect ratio when you hold it sideways, and that means TV series, which are usually 16:9, will look better. But if you're just talking about pure picture quality, then once again you really do get what you pay for, and Sony edges ahead. It's also worth noting Sony gives you more options to customize the screen experience than Google. Now moving inside the screen and talking about the interface, and Sony's pretty good with updates, security updates, software updates. I've got old Sony phones I've had for 3+ years still getting updates. However, Google promises 5 years of security updates with the Pixel 7. It also ships with Android 13 versus Android 12 on the Xperia 5. And while Sony has said that Android 13 will be shipping to the 5, that still doesn't quite match up to everything the Google promises. Now, both phones pack excellent app support, for example, and competitive user interfaces in their own right. Sony crams in SideSense, so you can quickly access apps with one hand easily. And of course, it has all of those camera apps that Google just can't compete with. That said, the Google Pixel 7 has excellent auto transcription applications that can read out voice notes your friends send you in WhatsApp, for example. And its photo editing tools are also a lot of fun. We haven't got time to drill deep into the nuts and bolts of both UIs, but suffice it to say, if you're coming from a Sony phone and really like what Sony's interface brings, you'll probably prefer the Xperia 5. But if you want the latest feature drops from Google as and when they come out, and the newest version of Android, the Pixel 7 is a no-brainer, your choice all the way. Onto performance in gaming, and day to day you won't be struggling with either of these phones with standard tasks. The Google Tensor G2 and Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 are mighty powerful chips in their own right. I was expecting the Xperia 5 to get really hot when gaming. I fired up Genshin Impact, maximum graphics settings, 60 frames per second, and after 30 minutes it was warm, but not hot. That said, the Google Pixel 7 was hot at maximum graphics settings, and it dropped more frames. It also benchmarked a little bit worse too. So as a result, it isn't quite the gaming phone that some people might have hoped it would be. I also noticed that the Google Pixel 7 got quite hot when I was downloading a big WhatsApp backup over 5G. Both phones have 128 gigabytes, which isn't as much as I'd hoped for in the Xperia 5 Mark IV, but it does pack a micro SD card slot, so you can bump that up. Moving on to the cameras, and the Pixel's primary camera edges ahead of that of the Xperia, but the Xperia's secondary cameras help bolster the experience. Now, a lot of that comes down to sensor size. The primary camera on the Pixel is 50 megapixels, which isn't either here nor there because it shoots 12 megapixel images even when shooting RAW. But the physical sensor size is 1/1.3 inches versus 1/1.7 inches on the Xperia. So that means it's less predisposed to handle low light environments well, and it'll also capture less shallow depth of field naturally. It's also worth noting, Google's camera software does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, whereas Sony's kind of expects you to go into one of the pro modes if you really want to eke out all the detail you can from your shot. As a result, it's a pretty obvious split. If you're a photography control freak, you'll want the Xperia 5 Mark IV. If you want your camera phone to do everything for you, it's a Google Pixel 7 all the way. Even if you are a photography pro and you want to make your life easier, we'd still actually go for the Pixel here, purely because Google's photography software is so smart. Sony's photos are more traditional looking. They don't showcase quite so much dynamic range, especially in the shadows. Even in a well-lit environment, shadow detail is quite difficult to pull out if you want to, but the shots do look very natural. The Sony Xperia's telephoto and ultra-wide cameras also grab more detail as well. They're sharper, they're higher quality, and generally speaking, we prefer them for the most part. However, we do really like the way Google processes ultra-wide photos. It's better able to deal with really varying light sources when it comes to strength, and that's usually what you get in an ultra-wide picture with loads of sky and loads of earth. That said, it's low light photos in particular that really make the Google Pixel 7 the standout winner when it comes to photography. While it can take shots that are rammed with detail, the Xperia's nighttime and low light shots kind of look like a 2005 webcam produced them. So while I really appreciate Sony's ambition here, the 3 camera apps are so powerful. Feels like they've put the cart before the horse a little bit and haven't quite got the basics right when it comes to what a modern day smartphone user needs from their camera. Meanwhile, Google doesn't cater to pros at all. Yes, it supports RAW mode, but there's no Pro mode out of the box, so you have to download an app to enable that. Onto video, and the 120 frames per second 4K headline feature is only available in the Video Pro app on the Xperia 5 Mark IV. Now, Irrespective, you can only shoot up to 60 frames per second on the Google Pixel 7. The Google Pixel 7, however, does compensate for exposure changes that bit faster. It does manage to focus on exposing for faces that bit better. It's just more user-friendly. So if you like shooting your video in manual, you want to take control over it, obviously the Xperia 5 Mark IV is the winner. But once again, whether it's stabilization you're talking about or purely accurate exposure, the Pixel 7 edged ahead for us. If you're concerned about heat on the Xperia 5 Mark IV, then you probably should be. The camera will likely shut down by itself when you're using it for a prolonged period of time across photos and videos, especially on a warm day. On a cool day, we were able to capture a 9-minute clip in 4K at 120, which isn't too bad, but on a hot day it shut down in around 5 minutes. While the Pixel 7 has got a large display and you'd expect a larger battery, it's actually got a smaller battery. 4,355 milliamps versus 5,000 milliamps on the Xperia 5 Mark IV. And the Xperia 5 Mark IV feels so much sleeker. It's a wonder how they crammed all that juice in there. Both phones got me through a full day of moderate use pretty easily, but the Xperia 5 Mark IV had consistently 10 to 15% left in the tank versus the Google Pixel 7 by the time it ran dry. When it comes to charging, they're very evenly matched. You've got 30-watt charging with a wire across both, though you don't get any power bricks in the box. You do get a cable with the Pixel. And when it comes to wireless charging, while the Pixel 7 charges at 20 watts, the Sony Xperia 5 Mark IV charges at an undisclosed speed, but they do both pack wireless charging as well. And so, wrapping up, from the design to the screen to the sheer capabilities of that camera software and of course battery life, the Xperia 5 Mark IV is the more premium phone, unsurprisingly, given the fact it's more expensive. But the Pixel 7 does edge ahead in some key areas. It's very user-friendly, specifically the camera app, making loads of decisions for you and giving you the better shot out of the two phones 9 times out of 10 in pure automatic mode. As ever, the phone that's right for you will depend on what you need from your smartphone. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Please be respectful, be kind, subscribe to this channel and ding that notification bell to stay on top of everything that I do, and head over to TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, tech_edit, and you can also get some behind the scenes goodness. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.